Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished and well-respected author from North Carolina, USA, Teri M Brown. Teri, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. Teri is an author, and all of you know I'm very partial to authors. She has written 3 historical fiction novels, a children's picture book, and a memoir titled 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. Teri has also published 5 non-fiction self-help books dealing with real estate and finance, receiving the first runner-up in the Eric Hoffman Book Awards, and she won the first annual Anita Bloom Ornoff Award for Inspirational Short Story. Teri, you've lived quite an adventurous life from Athens to Greece to North Carolina. How has your upbringing as an Air Force brat shaped your worldview? And I like this word Air Force brat because I'm an Army brat.
So you understand, yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't believe you called yourself that," and it's like that's just what we're called. I think that it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that there's a lot of differences in people.
Yeah.
And yet there's a lot of similarities.
Correct.
And I really discovered that on my trip across the United States. I think I'd kind of forgotten it. You know how you go through life and lessons that you've learned, they just kind of get buried. And what I really noticed is that, yeah, people can be very different, how they were brought up, where they were brought up, what religion they are, what political affiliation they are. In the end, when you get together with someone, most of that falls away. And what's left is the thing that makes us human. And that's the need for connection and the need for love and the need to have success, not necessarily success like, like making financial success or having your own business success, but success like I have a family that loves me and we're happy and we're doing life and that kind of thing. And so I think that's how it shaped me, is to help me kind of recognize that even though there can be really vast differences in people, when you boil it all down, we're closer than we are further.
Absolutely. Very well said. And what you've said is so well articulated in a lot of the Indic scriptures, including the Gita. But moving on, you've also spoken about strength and resilience. How did this journey redefine your idea of both strength and resilience?
So, unfortunately, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years. And that marriage, it changed who I was, fundamentally changed who I was. And even though I finally got out of that relationship, I tell everyone I was still very damaged and I didn't believe in myself anymore. And I didn't believe, I had a lot of anxiety and I didn't think that I had a lot of value. And I kind of thought my life was over and that there was going to be nothing left for me. Then I went on this trip. So I met my husband, my now husband, Bruce, and we went on this trip across the United States, and this was huge for me because we rode a tandem bicycle. And prior to meeting Bruce, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. So this was not Teri doing Teri. This was way outside of my comfort zone. And as we're going across the United States and hitting some pretty big obstacles like climbing over the Rocky Mountains, I recognize, guess what? I can't do it. I do have value. I do have worth. I started figuring out where to put the anxiety. And as we're coming up at the very end, so we've ridden over 3,000 miles, and my husband says, "Do you see that flag? That's where we're stopping." And I thought, oh my gosh, I can do anything I put my mind to. This isn't a matter of can I do it? It's a matter of what do I want to do? And the answer for me was I wanted to be an author. And 14 months later, my first book came out.
Amazing.
But that resilience is, I think we all have it, but sometimes we're afraid to use it.
Yeah.
So we stay inside of our nice little neat box that doesn't ever really push us or try us. And we're very comfortable there. And doesn't it feel very nice and pleasant? But as soon as you step outside that box and you have to stretch yourself a
Correct.
little, you recognize what you're made of.
Very well said. Great response. And you also say that your ride across America deepened your relationship with nature and the American landscape. Tell me a little more.
You know, when you're riding across the United States, if you do it by car, you're going 55 to 70 miles an hour, sometimes even faster.
Mm,
And you don't hear or see much of anything. I mean, you can look out and go, oh, isn't that a pretty mountain? But you're really passing fast. When you're on
mm,
a tandem bicycle,
mhm,
you're typically going, oh, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 miles an hour.
mm,
And as you're going, you see wildflowers of every color. You see birds' nests. You
mm,
see rabbits. I saw this rabbit. It was ginormous. And when he
mm,
stood up, he was almost to my waist with these big ears. And it's
mm.
like, oh my gosh, would you look at that? We saw bears, and we saw bison, and it was
How
just
amazing.
incredible.
Mm,
Yeah, and then we also like when we were in Montana, there was one night where we looked up and the stars were so close.
mhm,
It looked like you could reach up and pull them down to you. And
mm.
then the comet Neowise was
Yeah.
going across the sky, and its tail looked like it was 3 feet long. It was huge and it was beautiful.
Mm.
Those are the kinds of things you don't see in your day-to-day life at
Yeah.
home because we get busy,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And I think it reminded me, oh, look at what is here. And then in terms of just the United States, I got to see so many small towns and I don't know, it was incredible. I loved that part of the trip more than anything else, was just seeing all that I saw.
Mm. Amazing. Let's now talk about your books, Terry. From writing nonfiction, self-help books to historical fiction, how did your writing style and your voice evolve?
Yeah, when I was writing the nonfiction, that's when I was still in that abusive relationship, and I was doing it more as a way of earning some income. You know, they needed someone to be the writer behind these words. Writing nonfiction to me, at least those kinds of books, it was more about finding facts and then
Mm,
finding the best way to put them forward so that when someone read them, they made sense. Writing a novel is more about pulling something from deep inside of you.
mm,
You know, you've got characters and ideas and things. And so it was way more about me. And
mm.
until I got out of that bad relationship, there wasn't any of that kind of writing because I couldn't put myself on the line that way. It was just too scary.
Right.
But eventually I got to the point where I did want to write. The very first manuscript that I wrote that was fiction wasn't very good. I
Mm,
mean, my characters were flat. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured, look, I can do it. Look how many words I wrote. And it had a
mm,
story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It had all the right
mm,
parts. And
mm,
so then it was just a matter of discovering, what did I need to do to make this better?
mm,
So then I wrote another manuscript, and then I
mm,
wrote another manuscript until finally I started getting things that I thought, now maybe someone can look at these.
mm. Amazing. But many of your books are deeply emotional. How do you balance vulnerability and creativity as a writer?
I don't know how to separate them.
Hmm.
For me, my vulnerability and creativity must be in the same space in me. And it's like
Mm,
if I'm going to let one out, the other comes out.
mm,
Um, I I think that for me, I need to be very authentic. It's the
mm,
only way that when I write a character, it's the only way that they feel real to someone else.
mhm,
And the only way I know to be authentic is just to be vulnerable and
mm,
to let it out there.
mhm,
Um, I often use experiences that I had as kind of the starting point
mm,
for what my characters are going through.
mm,
In my very first one, Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, I have a scene where someone is hungry, and not just a little bit hungry, but nearly starving to death hungry. Well, I've
mm,
never been starving to death, but I've been hungry. And I've been hungry in a way that is probably more hungry than some people. You know, we were down
mm,
to not a lot of food, and it had been that way for several days. So I just took that and I said, what would that look like
mm,
bigger? What
mm.
would that look like if it hadn't been 3 or 4 days, but had been 3 or 4 weeks or three or
Correct.
four months? And I
Mm,
just say, And so I like to put myself out there and just say, I know what this feels like. And how would it feel if it were larger?
Amazing.
So
Amazing. Well said. Let's talk about your new book, The 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. And I'm assuming, since you told me it was tandem cycling, the double-butted comes from that. But how did your journey across the US evolve into this book?
when I started writing, originally the ride was I felt like I needed to do something really big. And my husband had wanted to do this for 40 years. It was something on his list of, gee, I'd love to ride across the United States. Then we decided we were going to raise money for Toys for Tots as part of this. And I thought, I'm going to keep a blog that I'm going to write every day and let people know where we are and what we're doing. Partially because I had read some blogs before we went, and I didn't feel like they were very truthful. Everyone just talked about all the good stuff, and you never heard the difficulties. And I just could not imagine that you could ride over 3,000 miles and it was all easy every day. So I wanted to be really, really honest. And that's kind of where it started. But then when we got home and I'm reading over my blog, I started noticing I learned a lot. I learned a lot of valuable lessons. So I started kind of jotting those down as I'm reading through my blog. Like, what lessons did I learn? And before long, I had these lessons, which I'd called rules for the book, of things that I learned or maybe relearned in some cases about life and how to kind of live adventurously, how to get outside of that box that we put ourselves in and put ourselves out there just a little more.
Amazing. And would you be able to share a few of these 10 little rules?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite rules is don't quit on a bad day. So we had a really difficult day. We had to go 70 miles, which is very, very long on a tandem bicycle. We had no other options because where we had been and where we were going, there was nothing in between. So we had to go 70 miles. It was a hot day. The wind was blowing in our face instead of at our back. And then we had not one, but three flat tires that day. So the tire just kept going flat. And by the end of that day, I was done. Not done for the day. I was done. And I said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I put that out on my blog. And I had a friend reach out to me and she said, you've done amazing. You've been over the Rocky Mountains. You've gone over 1,000 miles. If you quit today, you could be proud of yourself. However, I recommend that you don't quit on a bad day because you'll always wonder if you could have made it. Instead, take a step back, maybe wait a couple of days and then make a decision. Either way, really proud of you. And then she signed off. So I took that to heart. And it was true because the next day we had a good day and I no longer felt like quitting. And in the end, we made it all the way across the United States.
Wow.
And since then, I have used that over and over and over, the don't quit on a bad day. And I tell people, I don't say don't quit. But sometimes quitting is the best thing. It's no longer serving you.
Correct.
Like that marriage that I was in, I needed to get out of that one. Sometimes you're in a job that's really not good for you, and it's okay to say, I'm done with that. So it's not about quitting. It's about making sure that you're not quitting in an emotional state, because when you're hungry and tired and discouraged, it's so easy to give up. And then you're going to kick yourself and wonder, well, should I have stuck with it? If, on the other hand, you can step back and say, no, these are my reasons for staying, and these would be my reasons for going, then you've made a non-emotional decision. So that's one of the rules.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And, I was also reading that one of the things that you're also doing is that there's a lot of messaging, especially for women. I want to ask you, what message do you hope readers, especially women, take away from your book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure?
I think I want people to understand that what they need to be successful in whatever it is they're doing is really already inside of them. It's not something that they have to go looking for. It's not out there somewhere. It's in you. And if you can't find that thing, whatever it is, probably just buried underneath a lot of stuff you've been told, or things that you felt, or things that have happened to you. So start digging and looking, and maybe that's by reading a book, or maybe it's by talking to a therapist, or maybe it's talking to a pastor, or maybe it's a friend, but it's there. And that what you need to be successful and to be happy and to be adventurous and all of those things, you actually have that in you. I didn't actually change going across the United States. I found myself again.
Amazing. Why do you think storytelling is such a powerful tool for personal empowerment?
Storytelling is a way to get out of yourself, try on somebody else, try on someone else's ideas, try on someone else's trials. It allows you to kind of expand who you are. It allows you to gain empathy for situations that you might not otherwise even experience in any way. And then as you do that, you start discovering things about yourself, how you feel about certain things. And it kind of makes you grow and expand and become. And then like books like 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, they help you see that maybe you're not the only one. You're not the only one who's experiencing these kinds of issues. And therefore, if someone else can make it through and come out the other side, then maybe you can as well.
Very well said. You're also passionate about mentoring youth and women. How has your own story helped you connect with others who need encouragement?
I think because I'm willing to be honest, and I can sit down with people and tell them, look, I was abused. I was in a horrible relationship for way too long, and I'm willing to say it. I'm willing to share it. I'm willing to sit and cry with it, and when other people see someone who is willing to be very open and honest and raw with them, they're willing to open up as well.
Correct.
And as they open up, then they start to find, I don't give solutions. People find their own solutions, but they do it when they're willing to start opening up. They start talking to you, and before long, they've come up with their own solution. I didn't do anything other than sit there and allow them to kind of like bounce ideas around. But people don't bounce ideas off of someone they think is perfect.
Amazing.
They'll only do that if they feel like they can open up and be understood.
Correct. Great response. Time for 3 more questions for you, Teri.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone who feels stuck and doesn't know how to begin their own adventure?
I think, it'll sound almost trite, but just start. This idea that, I don't know where to start anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you start. Do something. I tell people all the time, when it comes to a bucket list, get rid of that. Instead, pick the one thing you want to do, and then find one thing you can do today to get started on that. So, when I rode across the United States on a tandem, on the day we decided to do that, I couldn't have left. We couldn't have left that day. We had to do a lot of things. So maybe on day one, the first thing you did was you said, okay, well, we probably need to order some maps. Okay, so find that one thing that you can do, even if it's in the wrong order. It doesn't matter. Do one thing, because once you've done one thing, you'll have an idea of the second thing to do. And before long, you'll be in a momentum and get going.
Well said. You've got a new book coming up for children, which is titled Little Lola and a Big Dream. Tell me about this book and let me know whenever it's out. Maybe we'll schedule another podcast for that book.
It actually has come out. It's been out. Yeah, it's been out for about 2 months now.
Okay.
It is she's a little train. Her name is Lola. She wants to be an astronaut train. And all of her friends laugh at her and tell her there's no such thing as an astronaut train. So she feels very sad. And she goes and she talks to other trains to find out what were they. So the kids will learn about other trains. But in the end, she decides that she's going to continue with her dream and that she wants to continue to be a space train. Then I got the opportunity to write a wonderful author's note at the back, because right after I finished writing this book, NASA said that they were going to put a train on the moon.
Wow.
And because they want to put a space station on the moon, and they're going to need a train that can take people and supplies from the dark side to the light side. And so in my author note at the back, I tell kids that there didn't used to be a space train, but now there is, and Lola can have her dream, and that they too should dream big.
How amazing. How amazing. Thank you. And my last question to you, Teri. If you could go back and give the pre-trip Teri one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would be remember who you are. Because I had forgotten. I had begun to believe things that other people told me instead of believing in the person that I was. I let other people's words shape who I was, and I no longer believed in myself. So I think it would be remember who you are. Because if I had been able to hold on to that, I don't know that I would have needed a 3,102-mile trip to help me remember. Now, I'm glad I had the trip. I really am. That was a fantastic thing. But it sure would have been nice to not have needed it the way I needed it.
Amazing. Wow. And on that note, Teri, I just want to say thank you for speaking to me. This has been such an amazing conversation. Don't quit on a bad day is such a powerful piece of advice you've given to all of my viewers and listeners. I truly enjoyed listening to you about your trip and how it was almost a life-changing 3,100 kilometers. Not only was it great for fitness, but I think it changed your whole life, your outlook to life, the way you appreciate your country. Thank you also for talking to me and sharing with our viewers and listeners that some amazing wisdom on life, on all the things that you have been through and how you've come out of it. And finally, thank you for talking to me about your latest book, Little Lola and a Big Dream. I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Teri M Brown's book. I will do the same. But thank you again, Teri, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.